Hello and welcome back to National Curry Week headquarters. We're here today to look into the diets of Bhai Cider, and we're going to investigate what it is, what Bhai means, and I'm going to go into the kitchen a bit later and find out how we can use it in cooking.
I have to say right at the outset that I am not a cider fan. I don't drink cider and it's not something I'd normally go for. Bhai is a Hindi word meaning brother, or more colloquially friendship, respect, that sort of thing. It's a 5%, which means quite strong, ABV apple cider, incarnated in India and reincarnated in England, and first created by Vivian Futili, an agriculturist in Mumbai, and Henry Chevalier, the 8th generation of the family of cider maker Aspel, the long-time lover of India. The apples are actually grown in orchards nestling in the foothills of the Himalayas, so it's a perfect combination of India and England. And amazingly, this area is home to 1/3 of the world's total apple growth. It's a mid-straw coloured cider, as you can see, with an aroma, very strong aroma of fresh apples, with cedarwood overtones, which for me as a non-cider drinker, first of all, is not so attractive. But it's fermented with champagne yeast and balanced with jaggery, which is the sweet item from the plains of India. So it's very light to the palate and perfect for cooking, as Colin will show you later, or partnering with spicy food, and actually is a very enjoyable drink. So I have to admit that if it's this particular cider, and it's the first one I've tasted for an awful long time, it's very nice.
So, as we've already talked about, most people think about cider as just something to drink. No, I have, certainly. Very nice it is too. But I've tried, I've incorporated it in 3 Indian style dishes. Mulligatawny soup, a great favourite of the British Raj. Basically, this one is a vegetable version. You can have chicken, you can have beef in it, but it's chicken stock, onions, celery. Most of the modern recipes have apple, which is why I thought that if I substitute some of the stock with cider, that would make a nice little boost and make it a little bit more appley to complement that apple. Towards the end of cooking, you put in a little bit, a couple of tablespoons of cooked rice, and stir in some sour cream or creme fraiche, and you've got a lovely warming curry soup for a winter's day. So another perfect marriage, of course, is pork and apples, so I thought pork vindaloo. In the traditional recipe, it would be marinated in garlic and red wine vinegar. I've used white wine vinegar and some Bhai cider, and as you can see in the marinade, it's actually started the cooking process. The acids in the vinegar and the cider have actually started seeping into the pork, and it's not so raw anymore. In this pan, I've been gently frying some onion and chilli, and I'm just going to put that into the pan, just the pork at the moment. In the marinade there are also little bird's eye chilies, the little strong ones that give plenty of heat, which will help give the power of vindaloo. Stir that till it changes colour. And so just a little bit. So once that starts changing colour and you start getting a little bit of caramelisation on the outside. You can see the caramelised onions there. A couple of the chilies that have popped in, starting to smell quite nicely. We're not going to waste the marinade. It'd be a tragedy, you know, especially with all that Bhai in there. Just pop it all in there. Rinse and boil. And then just let that, once that's reached a boil, take it down to a simmer. And that will be about 35 to 40 minutes until the pork's tender and the sauce is thickened down. As you see, at the moment it's quite liquidy, so that's got to reduce down. The next thing on the list of uses for Bhai is, of course, we use a lot of beer batter in British cooking, and so I've adopted it. Pakora. I've got some besan flour here with some spices, turmeric, cumin, coriander, some seeds and things in there, a little bit of dried fenugreek, and then I've got about 140 mils of very cold Bhai. It's just out of the fridge. So what I'm going to do is make a batter using that. A little bit more. It just needs to be like thick double cream. A little bit more. So foaming up. If it's nice and cold, then it will be crispy in the heat. And I've got a selection of things that we're going to try and bhaji or pakora Bhai. Give it a little bit more. You want it fairly smooth, so there are no big lumps. And I've got some vegetables. I thought, why not try some apples? Could try that, see how they work out. So again, besan flour, a little bit of baking powder, salt, the spices, and then if we just test and see if this, yeah, that's going nicely. Get my So, first of all, do some cauliflower. Make sure it's all coated evenly in the mixture and then drop it in. Make it a little bit hot. First one out. Whoops. Just a little bit there. And then a couple of the apples. To stop them going brown, I put them again in some Bhai, and it stopped them oxidizing and going brown, so they're nice, nice colour still. Again, we're going to just drop those in. Take it off a bit because it's getting very hot. See how they've puffed up? With the high sugar content, the batter's turning quite a dark brown, so it's an experiment. Here we are. I think now the fat's cooling down a bit. While I was talking earlier, I think it got a little bit hot. There we go. A bit better. A few decent flickers there. So that's the apple. And then some onion. Let's mix that in. A bit of temperature control perhaps, move it away a little bit. Go. It's coming up as quite a light, fluffy batter. I think the Bhai has helped the sort of fizz and the rise of the batter. It's expanding quite well. There we are, sort of a makeshift onion pakora or bhaji, if you like. And last of all, because I didn't want to mix the two, some chicken pieces. Make some chicken pakora. So mix that in well, make sure it all gets in there. Like that. And drop them in more. Some onion left. Chicken and onion. sure the chicken actually cooks. There we go, by break, because there's a rule. I'm a great fan of the late, great Keith Lloyd, and he always used to do this. So I grew up convinced that if you're cooking, you've got to be drinking. So here's something I actually like. Here we have it, dressed up and pretty with a bit of coriander. I think perhaps I might have made the batter a little bit loose so it floated out, but the batter has come out quite nice and light and crispy. You can hear a crunch. And it's really nice crispy batter. The first ones, I think the fat was a little hot, so they're a little bit brown. But the stonking success in all this, and I suppose it would really because of the marriage of the cider, is the apple slices. I can thoroughly recommend those, and with a little bit of sprinkling of amchur, which is an Indian mango cheek powder. Sprinkle that over, season it, then it'd be lovely little snacks, starters, canapes, with of course a glass or 5 of Bhai. I think it's actually worked quite well. Thank you. Nice cooking ingredient as well.
As you probably noticed, the popularity of cider in all its versions has grown rapidly in recent years, until annual sales are now almost £1 billion. Apples have been around a long time. In the 13th century BC, Ramesses II ordered apples to be cultivated in the Nile Delta, so they're nothing new. But organised cider production first came from the Romans, who discovered the drink in a village in Kent when they landed in Britain in 55 BC and developed it ever since. The Normans were the real pressure behind growth when they introduced changes, and cider drinking became very popular up to the 18th century, when part of farm labourers' wages were even paid in cider, so they were a very happy bunch of people. This was stopped by the government in 1887, who probably weren't quite so happy, but apples are recorded to have been in India since the 14th century. First organised cultivation was by Captain Scott with a sour Newton pippin and Cox's orange pippin in the Kulu Valley, which had been absolutely no good for cider. But Samuel Evans Stokes introduced the sweet apple, Red Delicious from America, to the hills around Shimla in 1916. There is a historical connection between Aspel and India, and it dates back to Lord Kitchener of Khartoum, who many of you will know from your history books, who was the Commander-in-Chief in India and also a Baron of Aspel. And when he ordered the cases of cider from his cousin in J.B. Chevalier, the connection was created.
What you decide to drink with your curry is entirely up to your own personal tastes, but it's often wise not to make it a heavy choice, strong enough to complement, but not to combat the dish. From the tastings we've had and the tries we've had, we can say that the Bhai does fit into that category. It is not too sweet. It's sharp enough just to sort of liven up the palate, not gassy. It's, if you probably see, there's a bit of life in there to make it interesting. You can just see the bubbles going up, but it's not too flat either. So it's got that little interest, that little zing, and with its lovely appley, tones, it cooks wonderfully. The apple flavours intensify, and it's really useful, really nice ingredient. So from between the kitchens of Mumbai and the cider houses of Aspel in Suffolk, I think they've got a cracker.
Well, it's certainly turned me on to trying cider, so thank you very much. Cheers and happy drinking.
Cheers.